Objections are ordered.
Thank you. I want to thank the managers of this amendment for giving me some time to speak on this important issue. The issue of American competitiveness is very important to me, as I know it is to all Americans. It's the security of our jobs and our economic future, and I'm here today to propose some amendments, and I'll begin with one that I think will improve the bill. I want to first discuss Sarbanes-Oxley and how it relates to competitiveness in America. The bill we're discussing, which is Senate Bill 761, the American Competes Act, seeks to improve America's international competitiveness by strengthening the quality of our labor force. However, labor is only one component of economic growth. Capital investment is another critical component of any vibrant and growing economy. America's competitiveness is being challenged by other countries, not only on the labor front, but with capital formation as well. We could say, as Senator Alexander mentioned, that this bill focuses on brain power. What we're trying to do is say brain power plus capital equals success in America. In 2000, 9 out of every $10 in stock offering from foreign companies were invested inside the United States. In 2005, that number completely flipped, and 9 of every $10 in stock offerings from foreign companies were invested outside the United States. Now, some might argue that this is simply the result of foreign companies wishing to list closer to home, but I'm afraid this is not the case. Cross-border listings are at an all-time high, Mr. President, and we are losing the competition for foreign capital. Now, this chart demonstrates how the United States is doing compared to others when it comes to attracting foreign capital. And we began in 2002 when Sarbanes-Oxley took effect. And you can see this dark blue line at the bottom is the U.S. exchange, which has stayed basically flat, while markets in Hong Kong, in London, and Singapore have continued to grow. There is no reason we should continue to lose ground to these other countries when it comes to investing. We need to remember as Americans that the dollars that are used for research and development come from investment capital. And there is no need for us to be spending billions and billions of dollars to encourage Americans to be better at math and science if the research and development is moving to other countries. Some say that these trends are simply a result of more sophisticated market springing up abroad, but the evidence suggests otherwise. When you speak with international CEOs making the decisions to list on foreign exchanges, they repeatedly cite Sarbanes-Oxley as the reasons they have listed abroad. That's why a report commissioned by Senator Schumer and Mayor Bloomberg cited Section 404 of Sarbanes-Oxley as the reason why international companies are no longer bringing their capital to the United States. Section 404 requires public companies to conduct an additional audit on their internal controls. These audits are most expensive for smaller companies. Mr. President, numerous reports have found that Section 404 produced a heavy cost upon small, publicly traded companies without a proportional benefit. As a result, the regulatory burdens of Section 404 on small businesses, companies are choosing to raise capital in other markets. A recent GAO study requested by Senator Snowe found the cost for small public companies to comply with Sarbanes-Oxley has been disproportionately higher than for large companies. Small businesses in the United States, afraid of complying with the complicated provisions of Sarbanes-Oxley, are choosing not to grow by listing publicly and are instead staying small and remaining private. This prevents capital formation, it stunts job growth, and it makes our country less competitive in the global economy. This is why Alan Greenspan recently said, "One good thing, Sarbanes requires the CEO to certify the financial statement. That's new and that's helpful. Having said that, the rest we could do without. Section 404 is a nightmare. This is not a politically inspired amendment. This is an amendment that recognizes that we're hurting ourselves and we need to fix it. This is why an SEC advisory committee recommended that small businesses be exempt from Section 404. And this is why I'm offering the amendment today. My amendment, number 928, would make Section 404 of Sarbanes-Oxley optional for smaller companies with market capitalization of less than $700 million, revenue of less than $125 million, or fewer than 1,500 shareholders. Section 404 reporting would be optional for these smaller companies, Mr. President, but they would have to notify their shareholders in their annual report. Mr. President, the Senate Small Business Committee held a hearing on this topic this past week, and I applaud Senator Kerry for looking into this important issue. As my colleagues may know, both Republicans and Democrats have suggested the need for reform, which makes my amendment consistent with the bipartisan nature of this bill. My proposal has been introduced as a freestanding bill in this Congress as well as the last Congress. It has also been introduced as part of a bill in the House by Representative Gregory Meeks, Democrat from New York, and enjoys broad bipartisan support. Mr. President, despite broad bipartisan support for my amendment, I expect some will object to it based on timing. They may believe that the Security and Exchange Commission is preparing to deal with this problem, so we should give them more time to work. This is something I believed several years ago. Mr. President, that's not only a weak excuse, but it's a complete cop-out. It has been 5 years since Sarbanes-Oxley was enacted, and each year that goes by, we are chasing more capital out of our country. The SEC has a responsibility to address this issue, but so do we. We wrote the law. Congress created this problem, and we should not hide behind some regulator when we have the ability to fix it. Furthermore, it's not clear that future action by the SEC will solve the problem. According to the Independent Community Bankers of America, the proposed internal control guidance under Section 404 is unlikely to reduce audit costs, particularly for smaller public companies. Some may also object because this provision has not been fully examined in the Committee of Jurisdiction. This is a poor excuse as well. American competitiveness should not suffer because a committee in Congress has failed to do its job. Mr. President, a bill such as Senate Bill 761, which seeks to improve the competitiveness of our labor force but does nothing for capital formation, may result in a highly qualified labor force but without capital to spur economic growth and create the jobs that they need to take. This is a competitiveness issue. It should be debated on this bill, and we should all support it. There is no plan to consider this legislation later this year, and it's probably the last opportunity we will have to address it before the next election. My amendment is co-sponsored by Senators Martinez, Cornyn, and Ensign, and I urge my colleagues to support it.